Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Backpack Trader Training Room for Thursday, May the 20th. Say hello to let me know who's here, and let me know if everybody is getting the audio and video this morning. Now, taking a look at our energies first. Nothing happening this morning on the pound Aussie. No trades on my chart and no trades on Trade a Day. On crude, we have the long trade at 912. And it looks like it might have been tradable, but at least for me, it was not. Pushed up through the entry too quickly to catch. But would have been a nice target 1 and target 2 had you been able to catch it. But I will go ahead and treat it as an untradable, and we will follow and see what the next trade is. $11 and $17 for 28 ticks. Unleaded gas jumped in with a short at 901.05. That one was definitely tradable, hitting target 2 for 55 ticks, and finally stopping out on the trailer for 53. So 108 ticks. That's about a $450 trade. For just for about 7 or 8 minutes in the market. So that's a good result there. Getting in and out. And POQ. All right, the crude trade has stopped out. The Russell is in an early short trade. The Russell and the YM on strong up moves right at the moment. And just pushed through, both just pushed through their session highs and pulling back a bit now. Soybeans has gone too far on the short trade that it's in, so we'll look for a new setup there after our market open. So everything's pretty quiet right now. Waiting for market open another 4-ish minutes. Yeah, about 4 minutes and 5 seconds. So unleaded is POQ, and everything else is available for trades. Actually, this could be 90. Yeah, we're about to get a yellow trade on crude. Low of 63.10. So the trade would be at 63.21 if we get the bar to close. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. We have to get down to 63.08 before we pull entry down any lower. I kind of like that entry. It's above the most recent swing high, but I would prefer it above the earlier swing high as well, but this would be sufficient, I think. So looking for an entry right there, most likely. The bar should close at 63.18, which would put the entry at 63.20 and key level at 21. And there it is. Entry at 21. So that is our first trade of the morning for crude. Targets at 42 and 54. So 21 tick target 1. Nice big trade. Has not triggered in yet. And the market opening in less than a minute. We'll look for a new setup on the Russell. And the YM is flat, so we're looking for shorts off the OSOB, or possibly a long if we can pull back into the 20 SMA and continue the upward move. And the market is open, and there's a short. $8.46. Probably weren't able to catch that. Hopefully we didn't catch that, and we'll call that a missed trade. Because it did pull through the entry and pop back up fairly quickly. Soybeans with a quick, let's see if this was tradable. Yeah, that probably was tradable. 14 to 22, 8 seconds. Maybe not. That's a POQ if you're able to execute. No, I wouldn't necessarily bet on having been able to execute that one. with that small YM trade, I would have wanted it to test the highs again anyway. And a short on crude at 63.03. Don't know how fast that went down through, but it's certainly plenty of time to get in. But it looks like it bounced down to the entry and may have just continued on and just meandered a bit above the 50, but just came back up and hit the entry again. So definitely in the short. And money management on the crude trade. So stops come to 63.02. And the Russell getting a stop and reverse long, or getting a long and then stopping and reversing back to short. That short getting target 2. I don't know what my data box is doing. It's bouncing off 2 trades or 2 different charts, and I've only got, it should be staying on the chart that I'm on. That was too quick to catch. The long was definitely untradeable. So the short is going to be a one and done on the Russell. And targets 1 and 2 achieved on crude. So that is going to be a POQ on crude if you traded it, either if you traded the long or the short. So a successful session on crude this morning. POQ on crude and unleaded. Still no trades on the pound Aussie. The Russell is one and done for a POQ, or will be one and done. Nice trailer on the Russell. He said that first short was not tradable. This second short and 34 to more likely you caught that one. That would be a POQ, but still possibly an untradable. Looks like soybeans is active this morning. But that should be a POQ trade. Well, what was it? Uh, 10 seconds. Probably got into that. So soybeans is POQ. And there is an SMH short on the YM. For diamond level traders that didn't get this second short, 22 is the entry. And now that spiked through too fast to catch. The long is not tradable. Is definitely not tradable. Or at least so far. exit the short, and now you in the long, being in sync with it at 846 actually for the stop for those on the stop and reverse, or 843 for gold level traders. Pound Aussie still just stuck. Price is just stuck there. See what pound yen is doing. Pretty slow on the pound yen as well. That's the last hour. So we had a long setup, but that has since canceled. So we're looking for a new setup there, and it looks like a slow day on the currencies today. The YM long is still in play. For those using the trailer on crude, it's down to 62.93. And we have our first trade on the pound Aussie at 82.04 is a short. And the trade today is coming up with the same trade. All right, those in the YM long hitting target 1. And off to the races, going through all 4 targets. Not a particularly large trade, so you might have taken target 2 for that one at 27 ticks. And we're at 869 for the stop now. Small trade, so that probably an target 2 for the target on that one. 27 ticks. And that was at 861. No, that's not right. 871. Yeah, 871. And we're at 69 now on the trailer. That's about to go up to 77, it looks like. So 22 to 46. For our stop and reverse. So that was a loss of 20. And stopping out at 877. So that would be 56 ticks. And that would be a POQ even if you took the short here. And the YM is POQ. Crude continuing to trail down, 62.81 now. So we are POQ on our 5 primary charts. And working on a POQ here on the pound Aussie. Looks like we have an 11-tick target at 81.93. So that target 1 is valid, and that's where we will move our stop to break even. But if we can get to target there, that's going to be POQ on all 6 of our primary charts this morning. Yeah, it moved down pretty quickly. I saw it come up, and it moved down through that entry very quickly. But it's still a valid get in sync, Don. It has not hit money management, so it's still a valid trade, but looking like it's going to hit target. Sitting at 90. Okay, looks like we got as low as 94.6. So 1.6, just 1.5 pips, basically 1.6 pips from target. But the trade is still valid. And there's the entry again. So Don, you should be in it now. Crude stopping out on its trailer at 62.81. So our next mini session on crude then is the 10 o'clock session coming up in about 6+ minutes. Need just a little bit more of a push down to get target. Yep, target at 93. And since we are taking that 12-tick target, that will also be our money management level. Our normal minimum for money management is 12 ticks, accounting for spread. But since we will accept a 10 or 11 tick or 10 or 11 pip target, we'll adjust the money management accordingly when those occur. Because we don't want to leave risk on when we've already taken profit. Put this up a little larger here. See, here's our spike back up to the entry that brings everybody in, even if it was down too far to pick up by the time Kevin's announcement came out. And there's target at 81.93 for 11 pips. Questions this morning. There's not a whole lot more to talk about. Everything's POQ. Or everything except the pound Aussie. It looks like it's going to test that session low again at 81.94.6. We need just a little bit more before we can consider taking profit on this one. 94.6 is actually less than our 10 pip, our absolute 10 pip minimum. And still not able to break through. All right, we have 2.5 minutes to our 10 a.m. start on crude, and we have a potential get in sync trade at 62.88. And we are almost in the 10 a.m. session. That trade is triggered in, so it's a straight get in sync. It will not cancel on closes below the balance line, but it would cancel on touching the stop. The stop is at 62.64. And we are in our trade window, so you should have an order in at 62.88 or whatever the entry showing on your chart is. And that is currently a get in sync. And looks like there's 93.5. What did we get down to? Now we've gotten within 3 ticks of our target. That's an area that I would definitely want to take profit in. And there's pushing through target. So definitely target coming off. Stop comes down to 82.02. Or no, 82.03. Plus whatever spread you want to you're accounting for. So the pound Aussie will be POQ on a single trade this morning. And the crude trade stopped out, so your order comes off. That's a no trade. because it was a get in sync. So that and the pound Aussie are the only things we're watching right now. Looking for our first setup for the 10 a.m. or for a new setup on the 10 a.m. session on crude. One more reminder that crude and unleaded gas are in their July contracts. The volume rolled over on Tuesday. Okay, target on pound Aussie. My chart is 87. Trade today is 86. Interesting. The Russell had pulled back well below its session open and now is pushing back through the session open. YM at session highs again. And the Russell getting close to session highs. We are in the short, so we adjust for spreads on the exits in a short because that's the buy side. So I'm seeing between one and a half and two pip spread at the moment. So I suspect some of you are seeing a little higher than that. I would say a lot, and there's a stop. So we actually stop out for a 1 pip loss, and we net on with the two pip adjustment spread adjustment. So that's 4 positions. So we have a net 5 pip gain this morning. Not much to write home about, but a positive morning nonetheless. It's like Kevin's chart hasn't come back up to the stop yet. But those trading on a Wanda are out at this point. And and Kevin's reporting it. We did hit his stop as well. So that ends the trade a day session, as well as the 6th chart to go POQ this morning for us in the room. We are flat on crude in our 10 a.m. session, and we are still flat on the euro yens. Not much going on now. Questions, anyone? Things have really gotten slow now. We did have a couple of orange level reports come out at 10 o'clock. And it doesn't look like they did much with, we haven't had, what have we had? 3 bars in 30 minutes on the euro yen. I don't think we need to do anything, watch the euro yen this morning. This could be an SMA. Yeah, there it is. SMA short on crude for the 10 a.m. session. $62.53. Stop at 76. Target is 16 ticks. Target 1, that is. So we are in a short trade for those using the SMA trades for our 10 a.m. crude session. Money management at 39, target at 37. See if crude will come down and test its lows again at 62.05. This will be a testing area probably because we've just gotten the crossover of the 50 crossing below the 200 on crude. And 20 seems to be progressing downward at about the same rate as the 50 right now. MR, I use Ninja versus TradeStation because I was already an Interactive Brokers customer as for my broker, and I decided to use NinjaTrader because that was a direct interface to Interactive Brokers. So I didn't have to set up a new account. But the other side of that is I've gotten used to the NinjaTrader. I actually started with NinjaTrader 7 and transitioned to NinjaTrader 8 fairly quickly because the tools in NinjaTrader 8 were much superior to 7, and the software was multi-threaded, so it didn't do things like lose ticks if you were doing a refresh or something like that, because 7 was single-threaded. But yeah, I'm running NinjaTrader 8. There was a short window while Awanda was NinjaTrader was an introducing Forex broker, and Awanda was one of the brokerages that they were introducing to. So I did pick up open an Awanda account during that period, so I can tie in directly with NinjaTrader to my Awanda account. That's not something you can do right now, or at least I haven't heard of that they've gotten a deal negotiated since Ninja stopped, uh, exited the Forex broker market. So they're no longer an introducing broker. And one tick away from money management on crude. Down as low as 62.40. One more tick to bring our stop down. Money management at 62.30, and there it is. 62.39 was just hit, so stops come down to 62.52. One of the tools that I really like that Ninja has is the ability to attach orders to indicators. So once I hit money management, I can attach my trailing stop orders to the trail marker, which is very helpful when I'm doing the room like this, because I can concentrate on the room and not have to worry about trying to keep an eye out and move my stop manually. So we got money management, but that's as far as it got. We've got to get down 2 more ticks to target 1. I use an ATM whether I'm trading 1, 2, 8, whatever. But the ATM is only to put in my bracket orders when the trade actually triggers in, and I'll have, for day trading, I'll have the ranges, and we got a stop out, break even stop out, and now a long trade at 63. I'd push that to, well, that's actually a pretty good sized trade. I think I might push that to 66. Get it away from the 20 SMA. Because that entry is right on the SMA at 63. And that is that's a 20 tick trade to target 1. And it did trigger in. So even with the 3 tick adjustment, it's still 17 ticks to target 1. And there's target 1. So that will be a POQ session this morning. For the 10 a.m. session on crude. Stop would be at 67 if you made the adjustment. $64 without it. I will follow this through its conclusion, and that'll be about it for this morning, unless there are other questions. But in answer to your question, Urban Rockers, I use the ATMs to set my bracket orders, but I don't use them for for trailing stops and that kind of thing. They put the orders in, but I handle the actual movement of the stops other than with normally manually until I hit money management, and then I'll attach the order to the trail marker, the trailing stop indicator. But of course, then I still keep an eye on it, because there are times when there can be some key level adjustments, or actually some chart level adjustments that I want to make that obviously the calculator is not going to take into account. The calculator on Spotlight will, and the full counterpunch will, of course, account for key level adjustments. That would be that tool would be less useful on CPX or CPX2, since those do not have key level adjustments built in. I did have some slippage. You really don't want to set your risk to reward there. You're just basically, the ATM for this strategy, you're wanting to basically put in typical target and stop levels, and you're going to have to adjust those once the trade triggers in. Day trades typically move too fast to try to set the ATM before you place the trade. So you want to have your ATM set to typical levels and to place the trade, and then you can adjust after the trade triggers in. You can adjust the target levels to what since Spotlight and Counterpunch are both dynamic systems, the targets and stops are going to be dynamic. They're not going to be a fixed amount. So you can set a typical or an average stop and stop loss in ticks, and that's what I'll do on my day trade setup. So I'll set the parameter to ticks and for the ATM, and just set X number of ticks for the stop, and each of the fixed targets I'm going to use will be X number of ticks. And if I'm using a trailing stop, the target for that position is going to be 0 in the ATM. That will give you just a stop with no target. But once the trade sets up and triggers in, then you'll be able to adjust your order handles to the appropriate levels for the particular trade. It's very seldom that, and I do say seldom, it's not unheard of that the trades will move through a target or stop before you can adjust it, but it's fairly rare that you have a market that's quite that active. The difference between NinjaTrader and TradeStation in that respect is you can move your handles around before the order triggers. NinjaTrader, you have to wait till after the order triggers in. But you can adjust your handles in the matrix for resting orders in TradeStation, where you can't do that in either the DOM or on the chart in NinjaTrader. Which chart are you looking at? White dots following the... Oh, the white, yeah, okay. You're looking at counterpunch. Those are the trailing. That's the trailing stop. Okay, you must be looking at counterpunch, because there's not a white. There are not any white dots on crude on Spotlight unless you're using the diamond level moving average cross trade. But your white dots are probably, I've got mine changed to dashes. You'll see like on this pink trade, then the dashes follow the signal line down, and the trailer is two ticks, is set to be 2 ticks on the opposite side of the signal line, depending on the trade. So for a short trade, it would trail 2 ticks above the signal line. For a long trade, it would trail 2 ticks below. You can set that in your calculator. But 2 is typically what we use. What I did start to say was, on my swing trades, since those typically take considerably more time to set up and trigger, I'll usually go ahead and actually set the parameter in the ATM to price, and I'll actually set my price levels so now I can just leave them alone, and once the entry is hit, then the proper orders will be in place for stop and targets. I don't need to come back and adjust the stops and targets once the trade triggers in that way. But the difference being, all right, and we did stop out for a single tick on the crude trade, so that is POQ. But that would be those dots following the signal line, which I believe defaults to green in counterpunch, if I remember correctly, would be your trailing stop indicator. So you would want to just follow those dots with your stop order. The white dots happen to be the trail marker for the white trade. The trail marker for other trades is going to be the same color as the trade setup. Now you can see on my soybeans, which is counterpunch, I see this purple trade or magenta trade that I have on the chart. You get the stop marker moving up to break one tick beyond break even until the signal line comes up through that, and then it follows 2 ticks below the signal line. But yes, those dots by default are the trailing indicator. I usually, as I say, I usually change them to dashes because they're easier to distinguish. But that can be done in the calculator, as you have control of all of your basically almost all the parameters. If you go into indicators, I'll bring that up here. That's why you also see some of my charts have an up or down arrow for the entry rather than the plus, like I have on crude, the YM, and the Russell. But those are all controlled. Okay, this is your trade types, and your bar colors. And then you come further down in Ninja, and this is where you control all the plots. Your targets, what size dot they are, money management entry. See, I've got a triangle up 4 point pixels for my long entry, triangle down the same for size for short entry. The trail marker, which you'll have LX and SX will be your trail markers for counterpunch. I've got it set for the plot style is a hash and 2 pixel width. So that's how you can control how it plots on your chart. I just happen to like the up and down arrows because they give me a very quick visual, especially when I get a white trade that I'm not sure whether it's a long or a short. That it's not the trade yet. The histogram hasn't crossed over, so all I'm getting is the entry marker, and that tells me that it's a long or a short just by the entry marker. So that's why I do that, but it really is just personal preference. It's a triangle up or triangle down. Is how I set those. So the point of the triangle is at the same place as the plus signs that it defaults to. So in your indicator for the calculator, come down to the plots section, and LE is the long entry. So you just expand it with these little carrots on the side. Don't worry about the color because that's programmatic. Gray is just so it will appear. One of the tricks that I do use, though, so that if I don't want to plot something to actually show up on the chart, or I want to take it out of the if I want to take it out of the data box, I'll change the color of these plots to transparent. which is right up at the very top of the list. But see, here's your plot style. And that you have all of those, and I use the triangle up for a long entry, a triangle down for a short entry. And of course, for the trail, I'll use the hash. That'll give me just a hash mark on the trail marker rather than the dot. Just a little easier for me to distinguish on the chart. So that's how you can change, and that's also where you change your dot size from. If you wanted to make one of these targets a little larger dot, you just change it. Say you want to make target 2 for a long, a little larger, you just change it to a width of say 3 or 4 or 1. That's where you can change the appearance of how things plot on your chart. That's specific, of course, specific to NinjaTrader. You have some of the you have the same kind of controls in TradeStation. It's just in a little bit different place. All right. Any other questions? And you can see the sizing difference on soybeans. I've got the width of 1 for target 1, 2 for target 2, and 3 for target 3. And I believe that's how it defaults in. It may default that way in the calculator. I'm not sure, but I do kind of like that. But with 4 targets, I just leave all the targets at a width of 2 and the money management at 1. I do find the arrows are easier to spot when it's in amongst, EMAs or the signal line or the bar, a bunch of bars on either side. So that's one of the reasons that I've typically gone to the triangle. Plus, it gives me I don't have to find the targets as well to be sure of whether it's a long or a short. The indicator itself, the way it plots on the chart tells me if it's a long or a short signal. But those are all things that you make the chart work for you. But you can see the difference in you also notice that the active stop changes from a dot to a dash when it goes into as soon as the trade triggers in, it changes to a dash, and that also tells me that the trade has triggered in. Just little things like that. And on the euro yen, this is the more default way it shows. You'll notice it starts out with a width of 2, and then once it triggers, it goes to a width of 1 for the dots. And I believe that, and then the the trailer just move as soon as when it hits its money management, the trailer moves up and it continues the one dot size. Yes, that's personal preference. I've underlying the spotlight colors because spotlight actually colors the bars based on your whether the system is in a long trade, a short trade, or flat. But underlying that, you'll notice that I have the current bar is blue when it's up and red when it's down, and that's just my personal preference. I like the blue because there are so many other there are several other things that we use that are green. We use several green trade signals and that kind of thing, and the green signal line. And I just wanted a different color, wanted the bars printing in a different color. Yeah, if you have trouble seeing them, just change the. You can do two things. You can change the width. Will make that little plus sign bigger or smaller. Right, the default I believe is a width of 2, but you can make it 3 or 4 and make it bigger, make it easier to see, or you can change the plot style like I've done to an up or down triangle for longs and shorts, because there actually is a separate plot for a long entry and a short entry. But yeah, that's the easiest ways I've seen to change just change the look of it is change the size of that indicator a little bit, or change the plot style. And I also tend to try to make my trade colors a little brighter color. That makes them easier to see. The magenta, I'll use the magenta, lime for the greens. I use the pink and the blue are fairly good for spotlight. The dark blue is not ideal, but it works fairly well on the dark background. And just work through things. Try different colors. Try different plot styles. See what you like best and what works best for you. Basically, what I'm showing here, other than the plot styles of some of my indicators, is the default color-wise for the calculators that we're using. Obviously, yeah, I changed my bar colors, but I got where I really liked the blue and red, especially when we had a green signal line and green trades. Oftentimes, it just made it easier to distinguish bars from trade setups and the green pluses and the green signal line. Not a problem, Ari. That was what I was just showing Urban Rockers a few minutes ago. The plot go well. Okay, let me ask this: are you in NinjaTrader or are you in TradeStation? Or something else for that matter? Okay, you're in NTA. Okay, so go to your indicators. and it'll come up in just a minute. There we are. And of course, you're going to be on the calculator, and the colors for your trades are set up in the graphics section. That's where you change your trade colors, or trades and other indicators like the colors in the OSOB, the histogram, whether or not you want to use the spotlight colors or show the exhaustion dots, EMA colors. No, that's dots to dots EMA one color. That's your yellow trade. Your magenta is off of the 200. The EMA 2, the SMA is the dark blue, and I've got the other diamond level setups there, and of course there's your EMA crossover is white, and your up and down colors for in a long, in a short, and flat for your spotlight colors. Then you come down to the plot section, and this is where you can change. For specifically, I'll show you the long entry. Okay, it's going to be solid. The plot style I have is triangle up. This is for a long trade. The default is the cross. I use the hash for my active stop or the trail marker. Here's the triangle up, the triangle down that I use for. So that's going to be your plot style, and your width will determine the size of that plot. I use a 4 on the triangles, and I also typically use a bar width of 4. So you notice that the triangles are the same width as my bars. So that's basically how you do it. And that's each of these. You'll notice that the dot. You've got the color, the plot style, the dash style, and the width is as set up on each one of those, and you can adjust any one of those to whatever your preference is. And the first 6 here are the exhaustion dots on the short on the for the longs, the low side for longs, the high side for shorts. And you've got your 4 long targets: long money management, long entry, long stop, trail, short stop, short entry, short money management, 4 targets. And you got your target, these you'll notice that I do have, and actually I need to put these back in. Okay, no, these I've got black. Yeah, because I just don't want the targets to appear in, or the reward dots, because there will be a dot on the chart, and I don't want those to be large, and I want them to basically just be part of the background. So since I'm using a black background, I'll use black color, so I don't see the dots unless they're actually in something, in a bar or on something else. But then those show up over here on the data box. If I want to turn something off in the data box, I'll actually just make that color transparent, as I was showing earlier. Which is right there. Or I've used it in the last 6 things I've used up at the top there. But that's how you modify the way your setups and trail markers look. And get the chart to look the way you want it. But yeah, size and plot style are 2 of the things that I use quite a bit to change the appearance and make it easier for me to get information off of the chart. All right. Glad to pass on some of what I've found with NinjaTrader, and that's as I say, it's personal preference. The triangles for the entry signals are personal preference for me. I've gotten used to either one, so I can work with either one, as you can tell on the charts that I show in the room. But typically, I'll have my trading chart set up with the triangles for plots and the hash for trailers for the stop marker. Any other questions? As I was saying, make the colors as bright as you can. You know, if you're in the room and looking at the charts that we project, it's easier if you're using the colors that we use in the room. It's less confusing, but use what makes your chart the most useful for you. These colors are not cast in stone. They are options that you can change. You just have to remember what your color scheme is if it's different than what I'm using in here, and that's one of the reasons that I do try to make my charts similar as I can to Troy's color wise, because it does keep things from being confusing. And the dark blue for the SMA trade is not the default. I believe it defaults to red and dark blue for one of the other diamond level setups, but that makes it one of the things that both of us do with trades that key off of the moving averages is we try to make the trade color match the moving average. Yellow is the 50 EMA, magenta is the 200, blue is the dark blue is dark blue or royal blue. I forget which that is, or just straight blue is the SMA. Trades off the SMA. Then with the open on moving averages, we'll have another set of colors, and that's actually where the red goes, I believe, to one of those, I believe, the way we typically set up. The red goes to one of those is normally the blue, and we switch those two just for simplicity, because that way we have all of the proximity trades off the moving averages match the moving average color. Now, if instead of using the proximity trades, you're using the diamond level open on the moving averages, and you prefer those to the proximity trades, make those the color of the moving averages. It just makes it easy to know what's what and where you're looking. But yeah, don't necessarily assume you have to use these colors. Use what makes your chart the most useful for you. I found it made it easier for me in the trade room when I was trying to follow what Troy was doing to make my charts as similar to his as I could. And obviously now when I'm doing the trade room, I try to do that so there is minimal confusion between my charts and his from day to day. All right, we've been in a bit over an hour and a half. And I haven't seen any more questions since Ari's. So all of our charts are finished, and the euro yen is still flat. So I am going to call it a morning. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon, a good weekend, and we will see everyone tomorrow. Or tomorrow. No, we won't see everyone tomorrow. Monday. Troy will be in on Monday, and I will have Troy on Monday and Wednesday, and I'll be in Tuesday and Thursday next week as usual. Or at least as of this moment. So we will see everybody next week. Have a good weekend.